And welcome to the Daily Space Weather Show. I'm your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash. Coming at you from the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Just bringing you some more 24-hour SDO videos here of the closest star. Some new active regions about to rise there over the east. As some active regions set in the west, we've got a quite active flare profile, which we will cover here momentarily. There's the full disk view in those wavelengths. That's 24 hours from SDO in 335 plus 171 angstroms, 60-minute running difference. We'll also show some extreme close-ups here. We're going to get back to this in a moment. First, today's imagery from SDO Continuum. So we've got mostly stable here as far as earthly facing sunspots. No major growth, no major decay. There's the colorized magnetogram for the same period. And we do have an interesting development in Indonesia happening. Central Java seeing major volcanic eruption activity from Merapi, producing pyroclastic flows that made it around civilized areas. So that's not what you want to see, an ash cloud billowing of that magnitude above you. That is suboptimal. Pyroclastic flow is not really what you want to be looking up at, folks. So that's one of the currently erupting volcanoes. Let's see what else is going off. Suwanosejima, Ibu, again Merapi, producing a pyroclastic flow on central Java, Indonesia. Semeru also erupting, Merapi, Popocatépetl, Santiaguido, Sangay, Revenador, Sabancaya. 23,000-foot ash plume there over Peru from Sabancaya. And next we'll get to earthquakes. So lots of aftershocks happening in China. Yeah, China quakes. Quakes in China, okay? China quakes. China quakes. There are the past 90 days of earthquake activity here, the past 24 hours, and again, lots of aftershocks going off following that 7+ magnitude quake near the China-Kyrgyzstan border. Besides that, not a whole lot going on. Easter Island area had a 5.4. That's a very desolate part of the world. Indonesia had a 5.0. And besides that, oh, there we go, a 6.3 at Vanuatu. That was at 14:33 Universal Time. The largest quake of the past 24 was that Vanuatu 6.3 magnitude. And, of course, additional aftershocks in China. And then a 5.1 at Japan at 21:33 Universal Time. Now back to space. Another 24-hour video from SDO. This is 171 angstroms, 60-minute running difference, along with 304 angstroms raw extreme ultraviolet imagery. Ionized helium plus running difference for ionized iron. We've got two major solar flare players, and both of those sunspots have produced M-class events in the past 24 hours. You can see one to the northeast of the Earth scale, one to the southwest of the Earth scale. And here's the southern polar region for sake of completeness. We'll also briefly show this new active rising region up in the northeastern limb. And let's don't forget a close-up of that sunspot in the southwestern quadrant of the closest star. Here is that northern sunspot, the one that's right in the Earth-facing zone. And excuse my Earth scale, I had that placed someplace else. Somehow a bug happened there. It is now in the wrong location, right over top of the sunspot. So that is an unrecoverable error, folks. Here's the full disk view in 304 angstroms. The classic ionized helium wavelength. So some minor CME activity happening. I think there may be another earthly directed component having blasted off today. We'll get to it here in a minute. First, let's talk some stats. So first, the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which is now at 180 solar flux units. 180 is the new radio flux number. So, yeah. I think that's right. There's the 1-year graph of the radio flux depicted by the black line here, now getting in behind the key. All right. I think radio flux is 180. There we go. There's a space weather enthusiast dashboard, which tends to agree. So radio flux down a little bit here from 196, the latest peak in the 10.7 centimeter radio flux. And we've got likelihood of geomagnetic storms tonight once again, and also throughout the day on, check it out, throughout the day on Thursday there. Or, as some people like to refer to it, Thursday. Tell Smash staff I said Thursday. There could be more geomagnetic storm activity. Anyway, continuing right along here to our Geospace Magnetosphere movie. It's Earth's magnetic moment from space for the past 4 hours. And at the moment, it is geomagnetically calm conditions. Next, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. And drop us a line if you've got any images of the aurora. Make sure you share it with us over on Twitter, x.com/smashomash. We'll also show the KP index, which is currently at 3.67. 3.67. I'm sorry, that was the actual peak. So almost to geomagnetic unrest conditions there. Current conditions are 1.33. So weak space weather here at the moment. Nothing exciting happening despite multiple additional CMEs likely on the way to Earth. So next is our real-time solar wind data. There's the ACE. We'll just briefly show that. Then we'll skip ahead. Let's show the Discover. There's a Discover showing about 9.25 protons per cubic centimeter for solar wind density, solar wind velocity here, 463 kilometers per second. So a little bit of an elevation there in both the density and the solar wind velocity at the Discover. A little weaker solar wind being detected also at Lagrangian point 1 is the ACE. So there's the ACE. There's the Discover. And continuing on, there are the GOES magnetometers. So no major changes there. I mean, geomagnetic storm conditions have evaded the Earth as the sun's been a plasma miser, and the most recent CMEs have not been like properly, fully earthly directed. So only small portions of the CMEs are actually striking Earth in any of these scenarios. Next, our top view ecliptic plane field plot. And there you go. There is the heliospheric magnetic sector diagram, and Earth is right in the center of a South Pole-oriented current sheet, a South Pole magnetic sector. Here is our solar line-of-sight field plot depicting photosphere magnetism in grayscale, B-field magnetism in blue, polar magnetism in green and red for north and south, respectively. And that brings us to coronal holes. Coronal holes, they're very important to solar cycles as they show us the solar polar field reversal process in real time, which we've been documenting in massive detail on the channel. So right now, not surprisingly, mostly South Pole-oriented coronal holes, except for down at the South Polar heliographic polar region, where we have North Pole-oriented coronal holes. So there's the current diagram, and looking at coronal holes here we've got, so these are south, and then down here you've got north. So that's the current state of affairs when it comes to coronal holes, and we do have two relatively well-defined South Pole-oriented coronal holes here rotating in. They'll be in the Earth-facing zone in about 36 to 48 hours. And let's move on to sunspots. Sunspot number here dropping below 150, and let's do a little diagram of when to panic. So I know some YouTube channels are spouting utter nonsense about solar activity, so let's take both ends of the spectrum here. Let's see. Right here, you want to go, no, my God. And then if it drops way down here, you want to go, oh, my God, because it's too inactive. And then if it gets back up here, oh, no, it's too active now. And then if it drops back down into here, you're like, oh, no, now it's too inactive. And so that's, sunspot cycle is perfect for alarmists because, you could be spooked all the time. The sunspot's the sun's not active enough. The sun's too active. Oh, no, what are we going to do? We got to find something to be spooked of, folks. We got to find something to be spooked of. And if you're angry about every sunspot, if you're mad about each sunspot, seek psychiatric counseling. Here's our synoptic map, and you can see a very high likelihood of additional proton events. That's relativistic particles blasted off of the sun, as well as, of course, large solar flares. So 2 spots there likely to produce them. It's 3559 and 3561. Those 2 sunspots have been quite active. And here's our flare probability monitor and scoreboard now that we've shown you the synoptic map. So 3559 and 3561 are the 2 most active sunspots. And before we get to that stuff, let's take a look at sunspots here from SDO. There's the HMI instrument along with the 171 angstroms 60-minute running difference. And here is just that's January 23rd, 2024, just the SDO continuum. So again, not a lot of degradation or growth of sunspots for the past 24 hours. Things have been relatively stable. Here's just 171 angstroms running difference by itself. I figured I would show that for once. I thought it's pretty cool, and let us know in the comments what you think. And let's take a look at the most energetic events, solar energetic particles. So there you go. There is the proton flux, and we're back to baseline levels once again after following a mild and short-lived proton event. The X-ray flux here producing several M-class events. So that's the past 3 days and a bunch of flares. Let's take a look. There's 94 angstroms. Again, both of those sunspots, 3559 and what was the other one? That southwestern sunspot, both producing M-class events. So the T-mass is kind of shared here at the moment. I'm sure one has produced a little bit more X-ray flux than the other one. There is the southwestern sunspot. I apologize, that's the northern sunspot. Here is the southwestern sunspot. The first one was 3559, and this one is the one in the southwestern quadrant. Fantastic. 94 angstroms is a winner when it comes to viewing flare activity. There's back to the equatorial zoom once again. Those 2 sunspots still capable of producing additional M-class or even X-class solar flares. Continuing on to our star chart. This is what's going on overhead Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. You've got the moon, you've got the Jupiter, you've got the Saturn up there. Jupiter right near the apex of its path across the ecliptic. Next, our solar system forecast. We'll show you where things are today. We'll show you where things will be in 1 week. That's where things will be on the 30th. As Earth moves to a lonelier and lonelier side of the solar system, the side devoid of gas giants. Next, our astronomy photo of the day, and this one is featuring a whole host of different interesting places in space. One place in space you don't want to try to sneak into is the Dragon's Lair. That is how you are going to have 0 element of surprise, and you'll just end up basically undermining yourself, as the dragon will not be surprised and will probably laugh at you if it doesn't just kill you outright. Anyway, that's the bunch of areas there that are being featured on tonight's Astronomy Photo of the Day, which include... Dag, that's quite the list. That image, apod.nasa.gov's image for January 23rd, 2024, features the Pleiades, Barnard's Loop, Horsehead Nebula, Orion Nebula, Rosette Nebula, Cone Nebula, Rigel, Jellyfish Nebula, Monkeyhead Nebula, Flaming Star Nebula, Tadpole Nebula, Aldebaran, Siemens 147, Seagull Nebula, the California Nebula. That's a lot of nebulas. apod.nasa.gov if you want to check it out yourself. And let's get to CMEs. Yeah, CMEs, they matter. So here are today's coronal mass ejections. And I think once again there is yet another one that could have earthly directed components. It's the one that's coming out of that sunspot in the southwestern quadrant. We'll get to it. So first we'll show C2 and C3 here side by side to get a further bead on where that CME might be coming from. Here's what I meant was, here's our custom coronagraphs. So there are three things tied together. That's C3 coronagraph in blue, C2 coronagraph in red, and the SDO 193 angstroms in bronze. All synced up. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4. I see like 4 CMEs today. And let's see if we can sort of separate these. There could be actually 2 CMEs coming from this area right here that have earthly directed components. So that's what I'll say. I'll say expect 2 more CME impacts. Let's see. One, both on, what would that be? Late in the day on the 26th of January or early in the day on the 27th. So there you go. 2 more CMEs on the way. These are all going to be minor impacts, folks. Not to be confused with major impacts. And even major impacts, guess what? They're not going to destroy civilization. So, yeah, look for 2 events coming out of this area right here. That is what it looks like. That's what I think I'm seeing. If you agree, disagree, or are indifferent, leave us a comment and tell us all about it. And if you're mad about sunspots and solar activity in general, definitely tell us all about that. And, you know, vent your frustration in our YouTube comments, folks. We always love a good rage comment. You know, because, of course, I always tell people, I have a problem. I get in trouble for telling the truth. Yes, it's very controversial. Oh, noes, folks, watch out. I might cite some facts. Very, very dangerous and inconvenient facts. Oh, noes. Hide your children from facts. That's real good for them. Anyway, here's another 24-hour video. Now we're actually showing the LASCO C2 along with the 304 angstroms running difference and the 193 angstroms raw imagery. Last but not least, a little zoom in so you can see where those flares came from. Again, they came from this sunspot down here and the surrounding region. So it looks like 2 more on the way, and we've got 2 or 3 yet to arrive. So it's definitely been interesting for space weather. What do you think? And there are filaments from Cerro Tololo, Chile. Let's take a look at that in the color imagery, which is a little bit more pleasing to the eye, but it doesn't show prominences. And there is one small prominence about to rise there. Well, it is rising over the southeast. So, but anyway, let's get the bonus features here. But first, the GO 16 SUVI for the past couple of hours. And that is what's going on. And now for bonus features. And I seem to have vanished. There we go. And now I'm back. So, first bonus feature will be satellite charging hazards. We ain't got none. It's smooth sailing. The GOES electron flux is still at quite low levels. You can expect to see low levels continue for a couple of days. And some anomalous readings and some wild swings of the GOES electron flux. Let's see what NOAA's forecast is. But first, the 1-year graph. Solon.info is where you can find that if you like. Solon.info/solar. So there is the NOAA forecast, and NOAA's expecting pretty much flat levels. Maybe they aren't expecting any impacts. I don't know, but we've got multiple other additional CMEs on the way yet that haven't yet arrived, folks. So don't be surprised to see some dips in the electron flux followed by a big rise. Anyway, next, the ionosphere, the layer where it's measured. So let's switch to that. And yeah, here we go. There's the ionosphere in its vibrational frequency. And hopefully it's not vibrating too fast, and hopefully you're not shaking in your boots over it. Or I might have to shake the banks of the river Styx and cause your soul to plunge in. Take the plunge, the river Styx plunge. Here is anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median for the Bureau of Meteorology of Australia. The ionosphere anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Anyway, hopefully that didn't spook you and cause you to drive yourself into the bunker. Although if it did, make sure you let us know that you are now nice and safe, all curled up in your bunker. Well done. Next, the Global Ionosphere Nowcast. GPS operators, pay attention to the left side. Radio operators, pay attention to the right side. Those are the things. It's the WHAM, the whole atmosphere model. Don't like it? Make sure you leave a rage comment. Rage comments encouraged on the channel. Next, the latest imagery. And there you go. Not a lot of changes since yesterday. No new major sunspots about to rise in the east, but we have some setting issues, so expecting sunspot number to dip a little bit between today and tomorrow. Anyway, let's get to meteorology, since it is where we will close out this video. So meteorology is where we're taking it, straight from the sun all the way to the earth. We'll zoom into the lower 48. First, the world's lowest pressure is actually tied. The lowest pressure is in between Iceland and Scotland, but also down here in the Southern Ocean. 964 millibars, or hectopascals, in both locations. So 2 stormy spots. Those are the world's lowest pressures and probably highest seas. Anyway, let's continue on here to show the planet's wind patterns. There are the surface winds of the east. Strong cyclonic system here off the coast of Australia. Doesn't look like it's super strong, but still a strong low. Anyway, jet streams depicted here. Jet streams of the central world. Surface winds of the central world. Surface winds of the west. And there are the jet streams. Clouds and fog are next. What in the heck? Pardon my aggressive zoom. There are clouds and fog. I don't know what happened. There was a horrifying error in my wrist motions. Clouds and fog for the Americas. Next, let's show this system that's making its way across Texas and so on, and anyway, that's what's going on across the center of the country. We're sort of centered on the Mississippi here, and if you don't like that view, then smash your device, folks. Smash your device if you don't like that view. We implore you. Continuing right along to rain accumulation. Check out the DAG. Rain accumulation for the next 3 days is berserk, especially in Texas. Look at that Houston area expecting. What are they expecting? That looks bad. Hold on, let me drop a deuce on Houston. Wait, no, I don't want to drop a deuce on Houston. Houston expecting 6 inches of rain, folks, in the next 3 days. That is suboptimal. Let's bring that back, actually. Bring it back. Bring it back now. or there will be heck to pay. Doggone heck. That's the Euro forecast for rain for the next 3 days there. Here's the GFS forecast. Expecting a lot less, but a lot more in Louisiana and Mississippi. So there's a GFS forecast. Next 3 days of precipitation for rain accumulation. There is the Euro forecast. Very, very different forecasts there. I would stay on top of my local weather if I were in those locations, as that will cause significant flooding somewhere. The question is where. Here's our weather.gov map, and you can see huge flood map there. Huge, huge flood map. And let me tell you a fun fact about the U.S. Did you know that the New Madrid fault zone is the old shore of the Gulf of Mexico? The Gulf of Mexico used to go like this. And there's lots of sand deposits there, and I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, here comes some forecasts. First, the GFS 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast. So this one's going to be showing that heavy rain by Houston. Or is that the Euro model? I forget, but deal with it. Look at your local forecasts. That's the lower 48. Here is accumulated precipitation forecast in inches. So it looks a little better than it did yesterday, but still pretty grim for large expanses of especially Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. By the end, Louisiana will be hit the hardest, as New Orleans will get a little bit kaplastered. Getting like 5 inches of rain in some of those areas, it certainly looks entirely possible. Here's our accumulated snow depth change forecast in inches, the same model, GFS 72-hour. So some more snow coming to large portions of the U.S., and last but not least, temperature anomaly, as warm temperatures come to the Mississippi Valley and points east. Let's close this thing out with lightning. Real-time lightning from lightningmaps.org. And we have some terrestrial strikes. Check it out. Near College Station, near Navasota. Some thunder rolling in there. In the Lone Star State of Texas. Now, something I almost forgot. A random shout-out. Yes, a random shout-out to a fantastic YouTube channel. You should check it out. He's kind of like a DJ. He's kind of like a one-man band, Mark Rebillet. I laughed myself to tears while watching this earlier tonight. So here's a tiny clip, I think. Or maybe not. Okay. So I guess the live stream ended, but check him out. Mark Rebillet, folks. There it is. R-E-B-I-L-L-E-T. Mark with a C. Absolutely fantastic. He did all the tracks that he creates on the channel. They're all improvised.